Hello everyone and welcome to the first ungleich Tech Talk. Today's topic is the V6 in a name. Before I go into details, let's have a look at step by step and what we're trying to solve here in the first place. So here at ungleich we have a lot of HTTP web servers which are only reachable via IPv6. You can see this here at the bottom where you have a web server for example.com which runs on an IPv6 only web server. So when you have a standard IPv6 client, what the IPv6 client will do, it will do a DNS lookup for www.example.com, which resolves to the AAA entry, the v6 entry, to the server directly, and for the A entry, for the IPv4 entry, it resolves to a proxy. So the IPv6 only client will then use the AAA entry and connect directly to the server. That one was quite easy. When it comes to an IPv4 only client, this one will also first do a DNS lookup. Will both again get both entries, but because it only has IPv4, it will actually connect to the proxy, which is dual stacked, has an IPv4 and IPv6 address. So this proxy then forwards the request to the server and returns it back to the client. This way we can run a lot of websites IPv6 only, but have them IPv4 reachable. Now this gets a little bit more complicated when you have a dual stack client, so a client which has IPv4 and IPv6. First, like the other two, it will perform a DNS lookup. It will get the A and the quadruple A entries, and then it can access either the web server via the proxy, because it uses IPv4, or it can access the server directly via IPv6. But in case of the dual stack client, it is not guaranteed which path it will take. Usually browsers are using the happy eyeballs algorithm, which basically says try to access both ways in parallel and use the one which is faster, which still doesn't say which way it takes, but it should take the better one. Now this is all great in terms of like when you want to access the website, because in the end you don't really care how you access a website. It should just load, and in best case it should also load fast. It's more problematic now when you want to ensure on a dual stack client that you actually access the server and not the proxy. And maybe a bit of background here. At ungleich we are running a lot of managed services. So we're running, for instance, Matrix chats, we're running web servers, we're running Django hosting, Rails hosting, you name it. It's a lot of different managed services that we offer. And almost all of them are actually running on IPv6 only VMs, because it's like very convenient to go v6 only, and most of our networks are IPv6 only anyway. So when we want to configure the server here, we are also not always on an IPv6 only network. Sometimes we're on a mobile network, we're roaming, we're in a different office. Now with Corona less, we're more obviously at home. The point is, it is also not guaranteed if we want to configure the server, and we're using configuration management system for it. In our case it's cdist, and we want to configure it using www.example.com. Well, it's not guaranteed that we actually configure the server, but in some occasions we might actually configure the proxy instead of the server. And that is certainly something we don't want to do, because we don't want to install Django on a proxy, or we don't want to install Matrix on a proxy, but we want to install Matrix or Django or Rails or Mattermost on the server directly. So to solve this problem, we have introduced something that we call the v6 in a name. So for a lot of systems that we have, we actually use the system name and append a -v6, Or in this example, like if we have a full domain, we actually create a new DNS record, which we name v6.example.com, which only has the quadruple A entry configured for pointing again to the server. So if we want to configure the server, we will access the server directly via v6.example.com. This works obviously fine for an IPv6 client. This also works fine for the dual stack client, which also can access the IPv6 server. For an IPv4 client, well, we don't really have IPv4 only clients, so this is not a problem we need to solve. And it actually wouldn't work because the VM is only reachable via IPv6. So the takeaway message here is, if you're running a lot of IPv6 only stuff, and if you need to proxy them, which you probably quite often do, and then if you want to configure them, an easy way to do this and to ensure that you're on the right host is to create a separate domain name or a separate host entry that actually points directly to the VM and does not point to a proxy. Matter of fact, before we actually introduced this concept, we did actually have some proxy misconfigurations. It was strange to see a lot of processes running on a proxy where they don't belong to. Luckily, this is the past, and I hope with this tech talk you don't need to make the same mistakes we did, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for listening, and I wish you a good evening. Bye bye.